Everyone, and welcome to our very first panel on Lifecycle. I'm delighted to introduce you to Joy here. I'm going to ask all of you to briefly, to everyone, not just Joy, sorry.
It's all about me.
to briefly introduce yourself. So we've got Joy, Yosien, Lisa, Tom, and May. And if you can each talk about your work and how you're reducing your carbon footprint in production and theatre, that would be amazing.
So I'm Joy Montgomery, and I'm a founder of a company called Onscreen. And for the past 12 years, we've been helping costume designers, set decorators, production designers stretch their budgets by sourcing free, loaned, and discounted products for use on screen and behind the scenes. More recently, to help with greener productions, we're offering a circular procurement service, which means not only will we source products, but we'll help you recycle, donate, or resell them when production wraps.
Amazing.
Hi, my name is Yosien, and I've been working with the industry for almost 30 years, mainly in training and business development, and most recently in sustainable business development. And I've been working with CAMA Asset Store and have been integral to establishing their reuse production network to be able to reuse assets that come into store. And I also work with the British Film Designers Guild as well.
Hi, I'm Lisa Burke. I've recently stepped down as Chief Executive of the National Theatre. I was there for 20 years. Along the way, helped launch NT Live and NT at Home. And as also as producer of work at the National Theatre, worked in the UK and on Broadway. At the National Theatre, a huge focus for us was sustainability. How can you be relevant if you're not thinking about the future and the climate emergency? But the other hat that I've got on today is as co-founder of Renew Culture, and with my partner Paddy Dillon, we launched the Theatre Green Book during COVID. So Theatre Green Book is theatre's answer, if you like, to how we can create sustainable productions, sustainable buildings and sustainable operations. And our big message to our theatre community is just get started. Stop worrying about it, get started, aim for baseline and move on to advanced, and then you will be making zero carbon productions. We will shortly be launching a version of the Theatre Green Book called the Arts Green Book, which is about sustainable buildings, music venues, museums, galleries, archives, etc.
Amazing. And Tom?
Hi, my name's Tom. I'm co-founder of Vectar Sets. I'm also managing director of the Vectar project in Manchester. Vectar Sets came about through necessity. I've been a producer for much longer than I'd care to admit, and I was faced with a challenge: enter virtual production, which was an amazing prospect. And then my client gave me the budget, which was impossible. At which point I turned to Chris, who I've worked with for 15 years. He is an amazing cardboard artist, and we decided, what could we design cardboard sets? And to my astonishment and my amazement and thrill, it worked, and we saved nearly 80% of what it would have cost us. And from that we developed, I thought, well, I wonder if it would work on conventional sets. And from then we've worked with ITV, BBC, Channel 4, RTL in Germany, and we've been slated for about 6 feature films next year. And in simple terms, Vectar Sets are faster to build. They save massively on productions, if they can do. They're 100% recyclable as paper at the end of a shoot, and 90% lower carbon footprint. And that's, in simple terms, what we want to do, is to really build Vectar Sets as a tangible solution in this industry.
I'm May. I'm an art director and production designer. I'm here representing the British Film Designers Guild, and specifically to talk about one of the awards that we've entered into this year's category, which is a Planet Positive Award. It's something I sit on the event committee, and it's something that I suggested following a job a couple of years ago, where I was kind of spent the last couple of weeks of my time coordinating where we put everything, where we took all the props, how we got rid of the construction. There was already an appetite for it. I think Yosien has been doing a lot of work to promote the award. But it's launched this year, and the idea, I guess, is to share ideas between us about different things we can do to reduce and reuse.
Well, thank you so much. I suppose one of the big questions that I'd like to ask you is, what are the obstacles in your line of work? How do you make it more sustainable? And when do you start thinking about it? When is the first second that you think a production, key decision makers should consider your work? And I will just start from here again, Joy.
Well, first of all, I try and borrow as much as I can. So if it's dresses for costume, bags, watches, whatever it is, props, I will go to brands and try and borrow stuff, primarily so that we can give it back at the end of wrap and therefore reduce waste.
You have your slide up as well from Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris.
Yeah. So, for instance, on Atlanta, they filmed in Europe, and most of the clothes you see on the main talent, I actually got brands to lend us, which was great because it was a huge collection we had to get. And then, like I said, that means at the end, there's nothing left over. Everything goes back, and it goes back into circulation because those PR companies that I approach will be lending out products all over the place. So they tend to go back and forth, which is what we want. The obstacles that we face, if we need to borrow something for a long period of time, sometimes the brands can't lend it. If it needs to be distressed in any way, then obviously we can't lend it because we have to return it in the condition we've got it. And then sometimes the script will dictate that we maybe need to have a specific brand. So it can't work that way either. But what we've discovered is that if we have to purchase things, there is a resale market. There are lots of rental companies that sell or rent luxury outfits to the general public, and they will actually buy stock from us. So I go to them and say, we finished a film, we've got this designer's dress, this designer's dress, this designer's dress, are you interested? They buy, which helps to recoup some of the budget that's spent as well. And it means, once again, they go back into circulation.
This is amazing. And how do you find it? I'm just going to ask you one more question. How do you find it? Do producers and production companies, are they open to this, or do you have to kind of explain the idea of circularity and why it's good for them? Do you have to highlight that you're going to reduce your carbon footprint by renting, not purchasing?
For some, most people are aware now, but for some you will have to. But I think because I'm saving them money and I'm helping stretch their budgets, they're very open to the ideas. And then we're also making money back. So I've always, in my head, when I started thinking about sustainability, thought about the business side of it.
Okay.
You know, productions, they've got a lot on and they need to save money. So that's how I started pitching it.
Would you say the same, Yosien? Because at CAMA you do...
Yes, I think that just to explain a little bit about the service that CAMA operates. So they're a storage company, but then when things come into store of productions, the warehouse team itemize absolutely everything. They write a description, they take photos, they measure it, and they upload it onto the unique portal that CAMA has. So the beauty of this system is that it gives productions full visibility of what they actually have in store. And that has real benefits because in the past, productions would often, because they're under so much pressure, not much time, things get thrown into warehouses, people can't find, crew are lost for days trying to find items. And then when it comes to reuse, often the warehouses aren't kept very well, so things are ruined, and it's just sort of all kind of given away or ruined. So with the CAMA model, productions can log in and have time to decide to make sustainable choices of where they want items to go. And we've set up a whole reuse service in-house, so productions that don't have time to be able to make those sustainable choices we can manage it for them. So we've developed a whole reuse network with costumiers, we work really closely with prop houses and community groups and theatres. And yeah, Joy gave me some great links for selling items to the high value fashion rental, houses, rental houses. In terms of obstacles, I think the biggest one is, and I think this is the biggest one, is the fact that productions, they don't have time to be able to make those sustainable choices. And we set up a whole reuse network with costumiers, we work really closely with prop houses and community groups and theatres. And yeah, Joy gave me some great links for selling items to the high value fashion houses, rental houses. In terms of obstacles, like most people, it's about planning and communication. So ideally, we would like to know when things are coming into store during pre-production and be able to have those conversations with UPMs and the production crew so that everybody knows what the process is, they know how the software works, and we're starting to think about reuse of items right at the beginning. I mean, that does rarely happen. And then the biggest obstacle, because I've been working in the warehouses when it first setting up this reuse service, and actually one of the biggest obstacles is IP. So all items that has any IP issues, we're asked to destroy, and that's actually lots of items. Wow. And what we're learning to do is to sort of challenge. We're going back a little bit now and saying, actually, there's a way of us repurposing that. We work really closely with Angels, the costumier, and other that can give us advice. And productions are listening to us and saying, okay, yeah, if you can make it unrecognizable, then possibly. But it's still...
I'm really glad to hear that, because I used to work in production quite a lot, and that was one of the biggest issues. We would build amazing dinosaur skeletons, and then it's more expensive to destroy it than to give it to a museum, and your heart breaks, but there's IP and effort around that, so this is good to hear.
Yeah, and actually on that point, I'd just like to... So one of our clients, our new clients, is Sky, who allowed us... We set up a display over there with some items from Britannia, and that was fantastic because normally we can't show anything. So I think people are realizing that, you know, hopefully with IP there are solutions, better solutions than just destroying. We also have a new calculator that we've developed where we can show the carbon emissions that have been avoided through reuse, and if we work them out for certain items and then send that to production, then that also helps to change their minds.
So productions can use this service at the end and at the beginning as well, because when you're crewing up, you still need to buy stuff, and you can, I guess, buy on your service.
Well, at the moment, the software is just for in storage, but the new version of the software next year will be a full asset management system.
This is very exciting. And Lisa, well, I've got loads of questions to you, but I think also one of them is you sit in the decision-making seat. So what are the obstacles from your point of view?
So for me at the National Theatre, it would always be about clarity. That's the one thing that I could do with Rufus as executive producers, is just to say, that this sustainability and achieving baseline is part of what we need. Because at the end of the day, I think generally there's a huge commitment and a huge enthusiasm for people to think about being more environmentally sustainable, but also there's a passion for people to create the best possible work. And what we find that we have, I think, across all our industries is people who know what to do. They know what to do as long as they are empowered to have the conversations. They would want to fulfill people's dreams, and they know that they can fulfill them more sustainably if they have the chance to say, great, that's what you want to make, have you thought about doing it like this, rather than going for the way that they've done it before. So I think that if from the start of the process you can say that achieving, in our case, baseline, Theatre Green Book, is one of the parameters, in the same way that we've got parameters around casting and the diversity we look for, the sort of budget, the sort of show, production that's being created. There's also environmental sustainability. And then very much hand that over to the fantastic technical director, costume supervisors, lighting teams, to make it work along the way, and recognising that what we've got to build in, I mean, we've got, as well as a climate crisis, we've got a funding crisis. So there isn't more money, but one of the things that we can try and do is give more time. Now, time also tends to cost money, but you can often get you need, I think, so much more working sustainability at the moment, because it needs the time to go to the storage facilities or to explore different ways of doing it. Time and time again, we have people saying, our set builders, well, we could have if ... you had given us the opportunity to, or if we'd thought about subsequent productions, knowing what this first one was doing, we could have gone for a modular approach.
What really struck me from what you said is parameters. And theatre and film, there's such a crossover, especially with production designers. You, Tom, you built sets for theatre as well. So I feel like that's what we need in film and TV as well, right? Parameters, because it's exactly what you said about if we know how to like not to destroy those IP items at the end, we agree from the beginning, this is what's going to be, this is how we're going to go about the sets, how we're going to go about the props, then we've got clear guidelines. That's amazing. So, and time. So, Tom, we can see all your sets here. This is amazing. And I know you're not just like selling cost savings, but also you save on time and you save on studio space and you save on everything. Tell us a little bit more about that.
I think the challenge that I've got in this industry, and again, it's back to the old Holy Trinity, producer, director, and DOP. Does it work? It's all right saying, oh, we've got all these sustainability things, all lovely. It doesn't work on camera, sorry, lads. But this is where, working with Chris and with his designers, that we work from an opposite perspective. As a producer, I expect demands from directors and DOPs and production designers. They cannot put their own reputation on the line purely on sustainability. And it sounds very, oh, that's wrong. No, we're in a very, very creative industry. And, you know, if we look at things like number 10, by all means, grab some selfies if you wish. That is cardboard. And it took 3 hours to build. And one of the big studios in Manchester confessed to me they build about 6 of those a year for all the different productions. And it takes about a week. So the challenge that we've got is getting in early enough. We've been, as I say, we're slated for about 6 feature films and major programs next year. And it's getting in when it's been green-lit to work with the line producer and then challenge the preconceptions that they've got. You know, as a producer, it's a very, very logical and proven process, right? We've got 6 weeks pre-build, pre-set, and pre-production. And then when they asked me, looked at the designs and said, how long is it? I said, it's about 4 days. He said, what do you mean 4 days? Well, it's made off-site. It weighs 90% less. You don't need to build things in there because they can all be pre-built there. You don't need this build time. At the end of it, you don't need a week to strike. It's 2 days. And where does it go? Does it go into landfill or does it go into storage facilities that we haven't got? No, it goes into paper waste. So these are the kind of things that we need to think about, is that the impact of it directly is important. It's 90% lower carbon footprint because of the way it's made. But down the line, the resource savings that we can make are massively more impactful. And also, it doesn't reduce the creativity of the DOP and the director and the production designer. It actually enhances them. And we're finding it more and more working with production designers, is they find they're the creative people that will come up and say, you know what, we could use it on such and such a job. And we've had it on more and more instances with ITV and Channel 4 that they've thought, you know, this could actually work if we thought about it this way. So we're trying to empower people, not limit them. So that's our challenge, is educating people in the process. It was just finally, it was quite funny. I was speaking to some people earlier, and they were sitting on the benches that are placed around the room, and they said, is it as strong as wood? I said, well, you're actually sitting on them. Those were actually used in a commercial we shot, which is being shown on Piccadilly Circus at the moment. And the same thing happened there. When the producer told the creative agency, we're making them out of cardboard, they went, you must be joking, and demanded to come to the studio early. And when we arrived, they were actually sat on the set and said, where's this cardboard set? So it didn't take much more convincing. So, yeah.
What do you find, though, what's the biggest obstacle then? Is it still like, because whenever I talk to production designers in the past, there was this big fear around like, oh, we need to do it on time, we need to do it on budget. I really want to try it, but maybe I don't want to try something new right away. So what do you think?
I think it's seeing is believing is the first thing. And the second thing is, they have a reputation and they want to be convinced on its strength, on its fire retardancy. Next year, Chris, my partner, he's working with the manufacturer on the new waterproof versions, so that we can use them on outdoor locations for street fill-ins. No longer 20 chippies working through the night to make a street look like 1920s, when you have an art department working for half a day with a Stanley knife and pushing it into the pieces. And that makes sense. These are the things that make sense, is that the whole production, if you're able to reduce production costs elsewhere, it means it gives you more budget to be creative in the things that really matter, in telling the stories that we do really well.
Well, let's ask the production designer then.
Exactly.
What do you think? When would you start thinking about this, and how would you present it to a production?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super happy to meet Tom today because I'd actually been in touch a few weeks ago. I'm in the final week of a 7-week shoot on an indie film at the moment, so I've been completely head buried in the sand. But I'd heard about it from Yosien actually, and I was like, oh, I must go and see these cardboard sets before the next project, because it's kind of too late once you've started in those, you know, few weeks before shoot. It's too late.
It's impossible.
And there's something I have lined up maybe for March, which is quite unusual in this in the indie world. So I thought I'll go and see it and then see if I can use it on the next project. But I didn't even have to go to Manchester. He came to me.
We actually have one slide from you, and I think it ties in really nicely with what we're talking about. So this is actually quite a tidy set. I've seen worse.
Yeah. So I just took this picture. You'd asked for some slides, and I'm currently working in Dover in a slightly derelict building. We're building into the building as well. And I just looked in one of the rooms and saw this. It's from an old production that's been in there. It gets used quite a lot. And there's a few rooms like this, just full of empty sets. And it's something I've experienced as well. It's cheaper, it's quicker, it's easier. You save the crew time. I've seen it before, but it's just dumped. And I actually wish I'd seen it earlier because we might have been able to use it.
There's a lot of construction waste, and it's really hard to separate it usually, so it's really good that floors can be recycled in that sense. So would you say that you've really designed for sustainability? So you would have to design for sustainability from the start of a production. It's not enough when you
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for me, I've come into this to where I am now from super low budget. I've kind of come through designing short films as a one-woman band. I've always bought things secondhand and got rid of it after, or stored it for myself. And as the projects have got bigger and the teams have got bigger, I've kind of come to realise that it's more difficult to control, and that communication is what's key. Like and sometimes I find myself responsible for an amount of waste that makes me feel really quite ashamed, and it kind of makes me question how I can continue to do the job, because you're causing all this, generating all this waste by not communicating properly. And what in terms of the biggest obstacle, I think what I'd really like to kind of flag here in this room is the thing that I think the art department is the key to solving sustainability on set. We're like an army of skilled people. We have all the knowledge of all these suppliers. We're learning more every day. We know what to do, but it unravels in an instant with schedule and script changes. And I think that's probably something everybody recognises. And the reasons why that happens, I'm not always privy to, but I think that we need to have a conversation about that. Like my 7-week film at the moment, I was issued version 25 of the schedule yesterday. We wrap on Friday. That's now changed to Sunday. I'm on version 14 of the script. And some of those are small, but some of them are huge. We're shooting in a location on Friday that I don't know where that is. And what happens in an instant is we go into emergency mode, and we drive across all corners of London. We buy new things, we buy more than we need. We have things arriving that never get used because they don't arrive on time. And it's exhausting as well. And I think like all the crew welfare conversations come into it too. I think people don't necessarily know what all the jobs in the art department do. And we do find ourselves justifying our existence a lot. And I think what we need is the time in pre-production, and we need the time in wrap, and we need the trust of producers to kind of take on these jobs.
It almost sounds like all of you said time is something that needs you need from the start, and that you can start thinking about this from the first second. I did have a discussion once with a production designer. He said his biggest sorrow is that he's building these beautiful things every day, and then they will get destroyed, and he can't do anything about that. So hopefully we can start working on that. Because it's a very short panel, we're going to start opening it up for questions. We've got a roaming mic upstairs, and I think we might have one downstairs as well. So do we have any questions in the room? If not, I can carry on ask until you think of one. I can carry on and ask you maybe one big advice from all of you to the whole industry in like what you would say everyone can do in their area that's related to life cycle and sustainability in production.
I think, as everyone else has said, it's very important in pre-production to think about not only the products that you need, but how you will dispose of them at the end. And I think if you don't do it in pre-production, by the time it comes to wrap, everyone's way too busy, everyone just wants to get off set. No one's interested then in talking about recycling anything. So for me, it's planning is really key. And then just think out of the box, make a plan, you know, to think about, okay, do we really need this product? And if you do really need it, can we get it from a sustainable brand? And if not, like I said before, well, then can we borrow it rather than buying it? But planning, to me, is key. If we can do that in pre-production, then
one final question. In your position, who would be the person who will have to make the decision? The decision. Who's the key decision maker you have to convince of this?
Well, for me, it's costume designer, and then it'll be either the production designer, or if I'm going through, set decorator. But then whatever information I give to them has to go up the channels and get, you know, final approval.
How about you?
So it is planning and time. I think it comes from the studios and it comes from the UPMs and the financial controllers. I think there's some work to be done around that. Scheduling more time for taking down the sets and working out your reuse strategy and not throwing things into vehicles so by the time they arrive they're just not reusable. And I think with IP, for the creatives, creating things where recognisable items can be taken off easily so that they can be reused again.
That's really good advice. How about you, Lisa? What would you say? Because you've done so much.
Well, I think in theatre for us it was just telling people to get started. Stop worrying about the... I mean, and the thing is, with Albert, you're sort of ahead, I think, anyway. But it just feels that there are so many resources out there, and we just said, get going. Don't worry about counting it. Just worry about achieving 50% reuse on the production.
And in your experience with the Green Theatre book, what was the biggest obstacle with that one to like kind of get theatres signed up to this idea of like?
Oh, well, at the minute, because we run it as a pro bono thing, it's resources, all volunteers. Okay. And of course, everybody's got day jobs as well. And there is a huge amount of enthusiasm and appetite. So it's a question of keeping up with the enthusiasm and the appetite. But that's a fantastic problem to have, quite frankly, within the world of theatre. Yeah, but I think, you know, we're all generally very collaborative, aren't we? And so that idea of getting started and sharing with others and giving it a go. Who's actually going to say no?
I mean, this is the whole point, right? That we're all in it together.
And don't look for perfection is my other thing as well. I think sometimes people can think they shouldn't do anything because it's not enough. But even a small change makes a difference.
And we can't achieve it alone.
No, we can't. It's going to take all of us.
I love that. That's why I love when everyone comes together, actually. All the competitors, everyone in the same room. Because we've got one common goal. Yeah. How about you, Tom? What's your...
my wish,
big advice.
I mentioned before, we're dealing with the Holy Trinity, where seeing is believing. I'd like to have a different environment where believing is seeing. 30 years ago, there was a company called Kodak Eastman, or Eastman Kodak, who owned the industry, and everybody, and when you asked the DOP to use digital, they went, oh no, it'll never work, oh, never. The quality's different, it's not, you can't go infinite, and here we are, and Kodak Eastman is now providing for the print industry, and they've gone and digital is how this whole industry works. And it might sound a bit ambitious, but the material that we've started to use and the methods we use, I think, could have that devastating change. And it won't make people redundant. Has digital film made anybody redundant? Have we got DITs and data wranglers and VFX supervisors and a massive list of other people in it? No, it won't. It will affect our mindset, and it will allow us, our creativity to grow. And that's my sort of vision.
If the industry can do one thing, is adapt and change,
Absolutely.
right? One from VHS to DVD to streamers.
Sure.
Who knows what comes, all of that. May, what is your final wish or advice?
Yeah, I think echoing what a lot of people have said, it's time to kind of do what we already know how to do, and to not think of it as something to do at the end, and also to keep sharing ideas, which is the idea behind the Film Designers Guild Planet Positive Award, that we get this chance to look at what each of us have done on different sets and be able to take that forward into the next time, and not be too hard on ourselves. It's never going to be perfect, but each time, if we improve a bit, we'll get there faster than not doing it at all.
Actually, when does that one close? Just to remind everyone if they have any production designer.
Ooh, eek.
It's the 25th.
Okay.
So there's
25th.
about 2 weeks to still enter. And we are looking for anything, because I know I was talking to Amelia, Sustainability consultant Amelia, who was saying that often a lot of teams are doing amazing at sustainability work, but don't quite realise how brilliant it is,
yeah.
so that we need to hear about it. So if there's any studios that want to nominate their art department teams, it's on the BFDG website.
We worked on shows, for example, when they would have reused the same set 4 or 5 times, but not necessarily, it was a while ago, not necessarily out of sustainability, but because of budgetary and time constraints. But now that would be something you can also highlight from the start, that you're already doing it. You can do it more often, if you like. So anyhow, thank you so much for all of your insights. This was just a very brief teaser, so everyone can learn a little bit more about Lifecycle and what can be done in film, theatre and TV. So thank you so much. And after this one, we're heading up to the Rubin Gallery. And there is an accessible route, I have to tell you. So there's a lift, and if you need the accessible route, you can take that one. And upstairs, we've got the Albert team if you need to do one-to-ones on toolkit and everything. And finally, we have the Slido things that will come up on those screens. If you want to answer the questions, we'd love those ones. And the next panel up is on power in about 5 minutes.
Ooh, question.
One question.
Yes, question.
Hello. Hi, I'm
There's a
here.
question.
At the back, I'll be here. Hello. Hi, I'm Kathy. I'm one of the sustainable production trainers. Thinking about the just transition on a human level, you've touched on it a little bit, Tom, but what are we going to do as an industry to retrain like all the carpenters that may not be needed? What are we doing thinking about that? Thinking about the retraining, so it is a just transition.
Yeah, I don't think there's. I think there's the likelihood of losing carpenters is highly unlikely. Continuing drama. I mean, we've provided some sets last week on Coronation Street, but they've not got rid of the carpenters, and they won't, because there are certain things where there are longer periods where you want sets to last there for 10, 15 years, and they won't have it. But Chris and his team are working on training tools to re-equip them with those skills so that they can use the materials, use the designs and everything like that. We have some productions, I can't tell you which ones they are, but they're in Wales. And clearly in the Welsh initiative is to keep a lot of production talent and production facilities in there. So our partnership with our partners in Cardiff works great there. So yeah, we're very mindful of that, and that's why we're hoping to work with Screen Skills as well. Just a nudge to Siobhan, and get support to provide the training so that people aren't left behind.
Great. I'm so sorry I didn't see your question there. Are there any more questions in the group? There's one. Carl?
Hi, Tom. Another one for you. Sorry. We use CAMA, so everyone.
Yeah.
CAMA is exceptional, and our our costume designer also went into CAMA after we'd put everything in storage and was like incredibly impressed with the way that it was set up. So that was the Essex Serpent that's with you.
Oh, yeah.
Tom, in terms of scaling up, so obviously you're based in Manchester.
Sure.
For the larger budget productions who are creating the most emissions and the biggest carbon footprint, how are you able to facilitate them? Are you able to facilitate them now? Will be the London office set up because all of those things start to become...
Well, it's funny you should mention that. I was over in Czech Republic in Barrendorf Studios with 2 big productions over there. Our manufacturer is in Sweden, and their base, we have a global OEM agreement, and we're working with a global design team. So within the next 3 years, again, ambition is that we were looking to have about 250 centres globally.
250 centres?
Yeah, centres that can actually deal with this.
Wow.
As I say, we've got one in Czech Republic at the moment. We've got others in other centres such as Vancouver, Sydney, and possibly Lyon. So we have the network, and that is one of the things that we've received investment for, is to develop the designs so that they can actually be provided in other centres. One particular example, which might sound daft, but we work with P&G and some of the larger global brands who have, a brand that has unique colours and unique references. If they wanted a set to do a campaign in Korea or in Kansas or in South Africa, we could give them the tools to have those sets identical, because we can give them 16,000 different colour choices and different finishes, and they'll be exactly the same, so there won't be any problems. So the same thing is true with a lot of the designers. What we're trying to do is build a common database so that we could provide the same facilities, whether it happens to be in Istanbul or Czech Republic or wherever, and find converters, because a large part of the production process that is made before it goes on set is made within the print industry, and converters, and we have already built up a large number of people who want to become part of that converter network. So yeah, we should be able to deliver that. I'm fairly confident.
So then on from that, in terms of the pattern for what you're doing, is that exclusively with you, so therefore there's not able to be a competitive market in what you're doing that would ultimately create a more sustainable industry? Is that something that...
Yeah, I don't want to own the world. Sorry, what's your name again?
Carl.
Sorry, Carl. I don't want to own the world. I just want to contribute to it. So,
it's not
no, but you're right. No, I mean, I think that the whole thing is that learning through this, people will copy it. The film industry and other industries but we're quite willing to share it, and we're very keen to share these things. With, as I say, with some of the larger broadcasters, we're keen to train the people within it to have the skills. Because this industry, the set building industry, is worth about $5 billion. There's no way we could carry that. And I want the responsibility for it either.
I think that's a really nice point to land on, that you want to share it.
We definitely want to share it. And anybody who's interested in it, please get in contact with us.
Right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah. I like that.
Great.